Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybil Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Now today we're looking at Poplar Grove, and I've been quite excited about these for a long time. I have done several studies and worked with them in different ways. They're very unusual, and just have a look and see why I think they're so unique. They have these really strange long limbs. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, like this kind of thing. And so I've done a number of drawings, and look at this one. We have this long, weird limb, and for some reason this appeals to me. However, we are still working with Intaglio, and we did the Tetra Pak in a previous video, and Josh will post the number on the screen. And as you can see, it either has this wide format or these little long panels, so not much scope. So we can do the dry point on different mediums, but it has to run through. I don't have an etching press, so it has to run through my little pasta maker. So it has to be flexible. So I tried with Mylar, and I'm not sure the camera will pick up some of the indentations here where I'm putting the lines on. And it sort of followed this little preliminary sketch. And as you can see, it curls, and it has to be glued practically to a surface so that you can do your mark making on it. So then I discovered that Yupo paper does the same thing, and it will scratch nicely without going through the paper itself, which Yupo is, or Yupo, however you want to pronounce it, is just a plastic sheet, and they come in two types. They come in opaque and they come in transparent, and this is a transparent one. So then I was able to, I just did the drawing on the back. I didn't really trace it. I used a pen, and this is just a micron 12. It has a really nice tip on it, so it made wider lines. And then it kind of smeared on me at the bottom, and I thought, well, that's interesting. So I just followed through and smeared the background in between the trees so that they would stand out more. Then to work with it, of course, you have to, reverse your image. So that's easy to do from the back. And with a light table, I have the whole thing here, unit is a light table, and I can just take the covering stuff I have off and then turn the light table on, and then I could just trace over the front and redo the drawing. It's kind of a tedious job at that point. You're scratching into the surface with a variety of tools. I have these pointy tools and even a dental tool. What's this called? Is it an awl? Yeah, it's an awl. Okay. Have that cleared up now. This is an awl. Okay, so then that, as you can, I don't know if you can see, the tip of it is very fine, and it will do the scratches. And wherever you scratch, the ink will stay in there because it is intaglio, and you have these, it leaves, if you ink it, it leaves the black lines behind if you have rubbed everything off the surface. And that's the whole process. So now one little trick I found, if you abrade the surface, it will also capture the ink. And I used a rough sandpaper. As you can see, it left an abraded surface that inks really well. Since I've done this several times now, even though I've washed it carefully, you can see the areas that will, remain dark. So that was a bonus. So, that often happens. As you work on something, you'll get a brainstorm that you can use in your work. Now, I really exaggerated all the different branches and had them crisscrossing and making elephant eyes, and I really got carried away with this. And that's the fun of it. So then this was the first to print on the Mylar. And it turned out pretty good. So, and you can see all the crisscrossing branches and things. But it's a bit Escher-like, which means that, you know, a surface or an image will sort of blend into something else, like a staircase that doesn't go where it's supposed to, or columns that, you know, the background and foreground shift. Look up Escher if you haven't heard about this name before. And he played tricks with imagery. And so I'd have to, that's why I decided to make the background between the trees a little bit more dense. Here I used, I think, stippling, just where you pouncing the tool up and down multiple times, which is very tedious. So I'm always looking for a faster way. And that's why I hit on the sandpaper thing. And as you can see, it makes quite a good background. Is providing, you know, your tree lines print, which was not always the case. Now, this is a gel plate print, and it will pick up the lines for the trees. And of course, the background is nice and dark, but you know, you can't tell what's tree and what's background. So Intaglio doesn't work with gel plate printing so much. So then I have various problems here, mostly problems. But I also wanted to do a Chine Collé, which is, Chine Collé is just a piece that is glued on when you're running it through the press, if you've got a press, or in my case, a pasta maker. And it turned out not too bad. Ripped a little bit. It was a little bit on the wet side and stuck somewhat to the plate instead of the, you know, the paper. Do you remember the name of the paper?
Stonehenge.
Oh, right. Yes. This is Stonehenge paper. I thought it was Reeves BFK because I have that too, but this is Stonehenge. But it works really good. And you can see the quality of the line is amazing. So, and then I did more. Now this one, the Chine Collé worked perfectly. It's really good. It didn't stick. But the background was, for some reason, didn't print very well. So then you go to the next step and you manipulate it. And I found, because this is my Speedball ink, it's water-based, so you can take a brush to it and, you know, do the background as if it were a watercolor. So that was interesting. So I was able to pull out the trees. And since, you know, all ink was wiped off the trees, they did stay white. And then the background was dark already, and so we just pushed that a little bit until everything appeared. And I think that's, it's not a, you know, a purist type of monoprint anymore. But, you know, you do what you have to. Now this one, last print I pulled, and, you know, everything worked fine. The Chine Collé stuck a little bit. And I think it slipped here because this is problematic. Anyway, I didn't bother doing, you know, more work on it. It is as I see it. But I think the Chine Collé is interesting, and would definitely try it today. So we'll get Josh to put an interlude on, and we'll start on getting this print done. So I have my strip. This is just paper from a sketchbook, but it's thin, so it would be nice on the printmaking paper. and it will take the glue without allowing it to seep through like other. I tried some Hosho paper, that's the Oriental paper. So we're just putting on a little bit of paint here, just tiny dabs. And we'll have maybe a little bit of red. There's a lot of ozzier. This is one thing I wanted to get. There's some nice little ozzier bushes in front of the trees. But, you know, you don't want it to get too busy, so you make sure that's minimal. And just a little bit of a neutral in there, so it's not too bright and overpowers the trees. These are all things you have to consider. And we're just gonna not mix them too much. There's too much paint, just roll it off. And then you get to play. I have my handy little tool here, and you just make some marks. You know, you can pretend these are all fall grasses, that kind of thing. And then I've got a little thing of water, and we're going to just put a dab here on the paper. This is Prussian blue, so that's quite nice. It almost reads like a black, so then you can run some of these for extra bushes. When it prints, it's quite a nice color, so better than black sometimes, because most of the composition is in black anyway. A little bit of color. So just flick your brush. If you want to learn how to do this flicking business, watch some of the Jerry Yarnell. He's on PBS. He has an art academy. Wonderful painter and such a good teacher. Be sure and check him out. I don't get paid for recommending other people. Unfortunately, yeah. But hey, there's a lot of good artists out there, and you should know about them and be inspired by them, as I have been. So not all of this will print, but okay, before it dries, we'll put our little. This is 2 inches by 7. We're working with a 5 by 7 plate, but we only need a little bit on the base of this composition, right? So we will print that. And it's come out quite nicely. We might do another layer to cover some of the whites, but we'll just let that dry. It's almost dry now, so run a quick thin layer of this over top. Okay. And then we'll see if that will bring that up. Oh, maybe we'll do it on the second sheet. Okay. That's even better. The white, the paper is in ecru colors, so if you have a really stark white in there, then I just want it to pick up a little bit more. And that's pretty good. We can even put this one back and see if it will pick up. Some more. All right. We just want it to cover some of the whites. And that's pretty good. Now, which one do we like better? I think the low-key one is better. So what I'm going to do, we're going to cut it into sort of grass shapes and things like that. But the problem with that is when you put your matte medium on the back so that it becomes a Chine Collé, some of those edges might be carrying a little bit of, this is like glue, right? So if you put it on the plate, it might stick to it. So what we'll do is we'll put our medium on, then I'll use my little X-Acto knife, I'll cut out the shapes, and then we can put our little sandwich together. Okay, so much for our 5x7 gel plate. Now we get into the plate. Now remember our image is on the back. I can't see it now because I haven't got my light table light on, but that's okay, we don't need it anymore. There's a few things I might want to shore up. There's a tree limb here that could have a little bit more. The more lines you have on there, the darker it will get. So I'm just making sure this is going to print. And of course you can add a few more elephant eyes, usually on a poplar tree that the branches have sort of a dark shape around them. They call them elephant eyes for some reason. So if we can just keep adding a few more details. Just want to show you how this is done. I noticed in the print that there was too much detail in the trees. Now you don't want to get carried away because you don't want it as dark as the background. Maybe with the exception at some of the bases, because some of the bases are dark. You know, they get sort of a really ridged kind of bark. So I'm just putting in a few more lines to give the tree more contour, you know, do some curved lines, and you can do cross hatching here if you like, just to give it a little bit more darkness. Poplars are always fascinating because they have so many different shapes, colors. You can see green poplars, you can see yellow poplars, even sort of a burnt sienna color. I guess it depends on what they're growing on. And of course cottonwoods are related to poplars, and some poplars have like sort of cottonwood markings at their bases. And that's what we can do here. Now, in between here and here, there's a bit of a gap, so we can use a little bit of that sandpaper stuff and make sure that's going to capture some of the ink, and then there are all manner of etching tools out there. Amazon, I'm sure, has a kit for them. But you can just use, you know, I don't know where I got this from. It's a dental tool. I think it was like a dollar store. You can buy them. I wouldn't recommend using them for teeth, really. But they really do make wonderful lines. And they have a very sharp... I'm due for a cleaning. Just makes me cringe. Has to be done. But anyway, just scratching in a few more lines here. Make sure those limbs will pick up a nice dark color. Most of the poplar limbs are black, so that's why it's especially good for a graphic image. Now, obviously, we're just in a process here of, you know, experimenting with this format. We're not going to be producing any Picassos anytime soon on this, but I'm learning a lot. I haven't done any Intaglio for a long time, and at that point I was doing etching. We had the press and the etching, you know, acid, and I had a wonderful teacher named Steve Mills, who is, I think he's retired and doing tattoos or something. But he was a high school teacher, and he offered courses for people who wanted to learn etching. And I was keen at the time, and we had a great time, and we produced some really neat stuff. But a lot of etching is highly detailed and takes forever to do, and as much as I enjoyed the class, it was not my cup of tea. But this I can do, and it doesn't take as long. And with the pasta maker, I don't even need an etching press, although there's always hope out there. I think we've got it under control. Okay, so the next step is inking. Now, as in the previous video, I showed you some of the materials. One of them is a must, is, you know, a good pair of gloves. These are my dirty gloves, and I have clean ones as well. This stuff is, they call it scrim or tarlatan. Yeah, it's just cheesecloth with starch in it. I have to think about these things. Anyway, and I keep these in hand. It's from dark to light. Now, put a fair amount of ink on this, I've noticed, and we need just a sheet of paper. I've put some double sticky tape on my background here. It holds the paper down. I don't put it on the back of a little plate because I'm turning it all the time too. So put a fair amount on. And this is just a little bit of tag paper or something similar. Cardstock, whatever you have. And it will scrape the ink into the little marks that you've made. And we'll probably need a fair amount more. Speedball printing inks. Aqua, of course, is an even better thing to have, but I don't have that, so we use Speedball, and they're just as good. Well, maybe not just as good, but pretty good. I haven't used Aqua ink, so I really can't say. But I hear they're good. And there's probably other brands out there that I'm not aware of. And of course there's the oil printing inks. Daniel Smith used to make it, and Charbonneau. There's oil printing inks for Speedball as well. They come in little tiny containers. And I have these, I just cut up Canadian Tire flyers. So I don't get too messy. So this is quite a long process. I'll stop talking and we'll probably run through this really fast. But take your time when you're doing it. Make sure the ink is in all the little grooves that you've created. Okay. And then you just start wiping. I start with my ugliest, dirtiest tarlatan, or scrim as they call it in Great Britain. And you just literally push the ink into those grooves. This ink dries fairly quickly on here, so I find you can remove it if it doesn't stay liquid, which is not good. So you remove it slowly, which is kind of contradictory. But what I'm saying is that don't linger too long, but get it done. And I'm doing this rolling process to make sure we've inked all the lines. And slowly the excess ink comes off. So continuing on, removing only from the surface, right? You don't, this is why I'm doing this rolling motion. You want to leave all the ink in all the lines if you've created, and but you want it off the surface. So you want the poplar trees to be light and all the lines to be dark. And once you've gotten most of the bad stuff off, you can even turn your paper over. I'm always looking for ways to control the mess. This is one art form that is really messy because you're using a lot of materials and basically throwing them out, which is why, flyers and things like that come in handy. Stuff you're going to be, recycling anyway. And I'm sure you could put this in the recycling bin because it's a water-based ink. I don't know about when you're doing, the oil-based ones. Now, inking is an art in itself, and you can leave it to some degree. You can really go to town on it and take most of the ink off. But you don't want to get any of the ink from the grooves, so Now at this point I'm going to change gloves because it's sticking quite a bit. When you were a kid, did you blow up your mother's rubber gloves when she was, you know, for her dishes? Josh is busy grinning his head off. I kind of suspect he did. We are revealing our trees. Now I could make it very mysterious and not take so much off the sides here, you know, and let that more middle area be the brightest and lightest. So it's, you know, it's up to you. It's very personal how you want to do this. But I want to just make sure that everything is printing properly. This is would be not an artist proof, because an artist proof has to be ready to go to make the whole edition. So it's more of a working proof. And we'll see how it turns out. And we're almost finished with all this removing ink business. Now I haven't put a lot of detail on the base here because if you remember, we're going to do a Chine Collé down there. So clean up your outside edges so it doesn't leave a messy kind of. I have one more piece at this point. This is just a piece of nice cotton, and it's just to polish the last of the ink off and to see what we have. And I can see there's still a few problems, but you know, we can sort that out at the next level. All right. So we have our, maybe clean up a little bit. Josh will put an interlude on and we'll clean our surface here. So here's my little sandwich. I have just some foam, craft foam on the bottom. Then I put, since I'm using it quite a bit, I wanted to protect it. It's just like a blanket going into an etching press. And then before we cover it up with the next layer, and then this one, we have to get our Chine Collé ready. So I'm just going to put this on here for now. We'll get it out of harm's way. Okay, so now we're going to put some matte medium on the back. Palette knife here. Now this is a little bit thicker than a lot of the matte medium. So I'm putting it on the back here. Now before I used a little bit of open medium so that it takes longer to dry. You want this to stick to the paper. But what you don't want is any of it to be on the front, because then it will stick to the plate, which is, you know, it's not going to come off very easily without ripping. So I'm just going to turn it over. And I have a little cutting mat. So now I'm just going to cut right through here and the bottom. So you can just follow the contours of things and maybe make it a little thinner. If you cut it sideways, then it will just come off. There you go. And so forth. Make this quick and don't be too fussy about it. Just give it sort of an edgy thing as if it were grasses. We want it to be fairly quick, otherwise the medium is going to dry. It might dry anyway because it's sticking a bit to this, but it's nope, still nice and sticky. Okay, and then maybe quick scissor job just to get some of those edges. I'm just trying to get rid of the white soak because it's such a glaring thing. And the white pieces, chop them off. All right, that looks not too bad. You might have to touch up your medium a little bit, just so it sticks. You just don't want it on the front, that's all. That should do it. Right, now you place it on your sandwich, and we're going to get the paper ready really quick. So we're placing the Chine Collé down here with the sticky stuff up. And again, getting it off there. And we have paper. I just have it in a little bag to keep it and Josh will hand me the towel, and we're just going to tuck it in the inside here. And then we rub like this a couple times, check to see if there's any wet spots, and I think maybe one more time. You want it wet, but not too wet. So place your, there we go. Position your paper over the plate so it covers the plate. And we got a little bit of stuff on there, but that's okay. So now we're going to take it over to our little pasta machine. We have our sandwich ready. Okay. Now the pasta machine is at 3, and I just have to make sure it rolls out the right way. It's a bit of a tricky thing. Okay, we're good. Okay. And then we take all the layers off. There's our plate. And our print. Now, Chine Collé is being a little stubborn, but it should come off pretty well. Now it's possible some of the medium had soaked through, and that's why it's sticking, because we're so careful about not getting it on the front. Okay. But it's coming. Okay. And there we are. Oh, some minor repairs, but not a big deal. And there's our print. Turned out not too bad. You know, some of the details on the trees are missing, but our limbs are there. And it's all good. Yep. Well, in the heat of the moment, we put the Chine Collé on upside down, but hey, it works, and it's not a bad print. It did stick a little bit for some reason, even though we were so careful about making sure there was no medium on the front. But, well, anyway, it's a process, and the more you do it, you know, the better off you get. We have one more. I think I'll just put the medium on by hand on this one and do the cuts ahead of time. See if that works. And we're going to re-ink and try it the right way up, but we're going to use oil because this plate would probably work for a while, and maybe I'll have a look and see, you know, obviously we're still missing a few details in the lines, but you know, it's a good print. Okay, one for the drawing books. So what I'm going to do is just go through the whole process. We won't film, you know, all the rubbing and inking and all that stuff, and we'll just show the final result for the oil. It's exactly the same process. You're not missing anything, except for put it on the right way. Oh boy, we do have fun here, you know, but it's all part of the process. In the heat of the moment, you do things that, you know, you regret, and it is what it is. Okay, here we go. I'm going to clean this plate. We're going to cut this, and I'm hoping our oil will work this time. All right. Well, this has been a fascinating experiment, and a lot learned, and not a total failure. Really quite interesting. It looked like the Chine Collé worked better on the Mylar with a water-based, speedball printing inks. And this is with Daniel Smith, and it just seems to always come out a little paler, but I did get a chance to wipe it really well. And I took down, with a little earbud or whatever you call them, to wipe the trees a little bit more so they end up a little more stark, which is good. Now, as far as the Chine Collé, I think this one was pretty successful. This one, not so much. I don't know if it slipped on there, which is possible while you have a halo here. But anyway, it went down. I can probably work with this with pastel because this is oil-based. You can't go in with a water media and fix things, right? But I can do a little bit of stuff here and there. We can certainly fix this. So, yeah, because this is water-based here. That was my acrylic paints, so I can just use a dab or two of that. So that's not a problem. So this process is maybe a little more challenging for beginners, printmakers who don't have an etching press, but you know, could get a hold of a pasta maker. This is worth trying. And of course, this is a slightly bigger format. You can use Yupo paper. Unfortunately, the pasta maker is only, you know, has about a 5 1/4 inch width. So you have to work within those parameters, but you could make really, you know, fairly long ones as long as you could, you know, wind it through. So it's all good, and I kind of like the look of these prints. Not something you can do any other way. You know, it looks like a drawing to some degree, but you just can't get those kind of textures and you know, possibilities with a regular drawing. So it would be very difficult. So printmaking certainly has its uses, and fun stuff to work with. It's a little on the muscular side. Hey, but that's, you know, that's all good. We all need exercise, right? So it's good. And I like this Chine Collé edition. I think that, you know, you can play with that. This one, I think, is a bit nicer, but we had this one left over. That's why we used it. And, well, again, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the little bell. As always, we really appreciate all your comments. Don't forget, we're also on Instagram, and I have my own page on Facebook, Shoreline Studio. So join me there, make some comments, really appreciate them, and always willing to learn new stuff. And if you have an idea you want to explore, I'm willing. So we'll catch you again. Don't forget to, you know, take care of yourselves and your families, and be kind to one another. Bye for now.